So welcome back to Box Office Maniacs, and today Vince and I are going to do something I don't think ever did before. Have we, Vince?
I don't think we did anything like this. We've talked about a few things. We've had like our little kind of news things, but not. It's usually about like a release of a Blu-ray or something.
So, breaking story from New York Daily News is that Steven Spielberg hates Temple of Doom, even though that's not really new news. But it just came out, so it's apparently news.
Okay, so there you have it. He hates Temple of Doom.
So HBO is doing a documentary about Steven Spielberg or his life or his movies or whatever. And the person who's directing it, Susan Lacey, said that, she was sitting down with Steven Spielberg and she said that he told her that he thought that Temple of Doom out-poltered Poltergeist. Of all the Indiana Jones movies, it's the one he hated the most. Now, I can tell you about this. I got the Blu-ray box set here, and Vince and I are eventually going to review this at some point in the future. But when Temple of Doom came out, Vince, I was in my teenage years, I guess. It was late teenage years.
Yeah, I think we were both about 13 years old.
And that age, I was like super impressionable. I think a lot of 13, 14, when you're in that age and you start seeing movies, and that's when you start discovering, things in the world, like movies and comics, and some people discover girls.
And boobs.
I'm down, diddly 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 diddly.
Going to see Temple of Doom was highly impressionable to me. I still remember exactly what we did. We went to Steak and Shake, and it was me and my mom and my dad, and we sat there at Steak and Shake and discussed Temple of Doom, and I was just like, oh, this is the greatest film ever. It was so mind-boggling and so incredible. And what I really loved about it was all the horror in the film, because I'm a big fan of horror movies.
I don't know if it was so impressionable upon me, but I loved the Indiana Jones films. I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark. I couldn't wait to see the Temple of Doom, and when I saw it, I came out of that movie and I thought, man, that was just absolutely fantastic. It was as good as the first one, and all of this, and I was thoroughly excited for it. But yes, I did love all the horror that was in it as well. But there's a reason that it has all of that in it. Do you know what the reason is?
No, I don't know what the reason is. Because they wanted to put it in there? They wanted to make a horror movie?
No, what it was at the time that George Lucas was actually the one who came up with Indiana Jones. If there's people out there that still don't realize that. George Lucas is the one who came up with the character and wrote the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then he wrote Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and he wrote it with two of the people that actually eventually went on and helped him write Howard the Duck. But, okay, when he wrote it, it was at a time and period in his life where he was going through a divorce, and he was angry at the divorce, and he was, I think, trying to get custody of his child and things like that. So there was a lot of emotional crap happening to George Lucas at the time. So that happening, I think, came into his writing, and I think he believes it came into his writing, and I think Steven Spielberg believes the same thing. And when they wrote Temple of Doom, that's why it got so dark and dreary and everything. And that's why the tone is a lot different from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So what you're saying, Vince, is the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he got abducted by aliens and then decided to go ahead and rewrite the whole thing about aliens?
No.
Oh, I thought that's what you were leading to.
At that point in time in George Lucas's life was not a good time for George Lucas.
I loved Temple of Doom, and to this day, I still love Temple of Doom because it's so dark. And it's weird because it is dark, and that's what I liked about it. It's like, I mean, literally, if you watch the movie, when they're in the temple, they have human skins for window shades in the temple. I mean, it's really dark. I mean, there's no getting around that. But at the same time, the action in this film, I still think, is the best out of all the movies. Out of every single Indiana Jones film, I think Temple of Doom had the most amazing and the most awesome action sequences throughout any of the films.
No, again, that's debatable. Because I love Temple of Doom, but I loved my favorite out of all the Indiana Jones films, I believe, is The Last Crusade. I loved The Last Crusade. I related to The Last Crusade a lot more than I did some of the other ones. I think the best one is probably Raiders, but the best film. But as far as my favorite, I like The Last Crusade. And at the time when Indiana Jones was just a trilogy, when it was only those three and they hadn't made Kingdom of the Crystal Skull yet, out of those three films, I thought Temple of Doom was the weaker one out of those. But now that he's done all four films, even though I do like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it is the weakest one out of all four films.
And I don't really want to get into the review of Temple of Doom, because eventually, like I said, it's one of those on our list to do, go through all the indie movies. But like the beginning of Indiana Jones, where he jumps out of the airplane on a raft and he goes down the slope, everybody was fine with that. Nobody said, oh man, that was so ridiculous. The refrigerator scene, everybody went crazy over. But that scene, and then they go off the waterfall and then they go all this crazy stuff. I mean, that was fun, though. I mean, that was silly fun, and that's sort of what Temple of Doom was. It was sort of weird, silly fun, and just it had so many classic moments in it, and, I loved it. Is it my favorite out of the three? No. But it's one of my favorites, and like you said, I think Last Crusade is probably my favorite as well, because it was so it was fun. I mean, that was a fun adventure, and they took all the darkness out of it, obviously. But still, to have Spielberg say that this was his worst film over Crystal Skull, I mean, it's kind of like, no.
Well, you also got to remember, too, when they got together again to do Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it was mostly due to Harrison Ford finally getting him and George Lucas to finally sit down and say, okay, let's do another one of these because the fans keep asking me about this, and I want to do another one. And Harrison Ford has often said he would play Indiana Jones again in a New York Minute. That's literally his words, because he absolutely loves that character and he has so much fun playing it. A few months ago, they introduced that they were going to do an Indiana Jones 5, and again, that would have to do a lot with Harrison Ford and him wanting to play the character again and having fun playing the character. And I'm all for that.
And I also heard that George Lucas has nothing to do with writing this story, so thank God for that.
You see, and everybody's always down on George Lucas for this, and I don't get that either.
Vince, one word, Vince, aliens.
Why can't you accept aliens in Indiana Jones? I don't understand why anybody can't accept that, because if you know any kind of history or any kind of ancient history, there's aliens all over ancient history.
I'm not saying that they couldn't have made a good Indiana Jones movie with aliens, Vince, but they didn't make a good Indiana Jones movie with aliens, is what I'm saying.
I think what he did, and this is the other thing I didn't care for with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, was the ending of it. I didn't care for whatsoever. I thought it was the lamest, stupidest ending to any of the films, which none of the other films had stupid endings. This one had a stupid ending, and it was stupid because he took the whole idea of it's supposed to be interdimensional beings, but yet they still look like aliens, and we're going to put them in a spaceship, and the spaceship, where did the spaceship go? It didn't go into outer space. No, it goes into interdimensional time or whatever, and it's just stupid. That was over the top and dumb. I think he went way too far with it.
Okay, then. So what do you think of Spielberg saying that Temple of Doom was the worst out of the three films? Out of the four films. I forgot about the fourth one. I try to forget about the fourth one.
Not shocked. I'm not surprised. I'm not, because he said this a long time ago when he was making Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He said then that part of the reason of him doing Last Crusade was to apologize to George Lucas for Temple of Doom.
So let us know what you think about this decision on Spielberg. Even though it's not a really new one, it just popped up and decided to jump on here and give you guys what we thought about it. And we might do this from time to time if we get some interesting news, jump on here and throw a news story at you.
Hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell up there so that you can get notifications of us posting all this stuff. And if Adventure has a name, it is